Hey, good morning. Yes, it is. It's Tuesday, April 23rd. So I thought today we'd talk about, because I see it a lot, is if you're going to be in the business of selling parts to customers, you, you need to know a little bit, at least a little bit about the parts and what they do. And you have to be able to tell your customers in layman terms, right? Well, hang tight. Alright, so welcome back. My name is Eric. If you didn't already know it, this is the weekday Tuesday show. Monday through Friday, we do the video and podcast. So if you're headed to work, you can listen to it on the way in through traffic, or you can watch the video from home. So what are we talking about today about knowing what you sell? I know there's a gazillion parts out there, but you need to become somewhat of the resident expert, right? And you have to be able to say what you need to a customer in layman terms so that they can understand it. I know a lot of you guys are a one-man band, or you pretty much run the shop and you're the mechanic as well. So you know how things work and what they do. And I know, like with Claude, if he feels that if we tell the customer how to fix the problem with a part that we're selling, that we're losing work by telling them how to do it versus having us do it. And that it's taking money away from the repair side of the business. I don't look at it that way. Some people, they like to be able to do their own thing, and if I can guide them through the process, absolutely, I'm more than willing to help in layman's terms. And I always add towards the end, if you get yourself into trouble, call or bring it here. If you got a way to bring it here, and Claude will fix it. And about half my customers that are do-it-yourselfers, unless it's something minor, end up bringing it to us in the end. And I know you mechanics, you don't like anything that somebody else has had their hands on, right? Because you're trying to figure it out. But you should have some common sense. If somebody tried replacing a fuel pump because they aren't getting any fuel and that didn't make a difference, it's not the fuel pump if they just put a new fuel pump in, right? Unless they installed it wrong. I've seen people take a diaphragm vacuum system fuel pump. It's got 3 nipples on it. One is vacuum that goes to the valve cover, and one is fuel coming to it, and one is fuel going to the carburetor. And I've seen them put the fuel side on one side and the fuel on the vacuum, and then the vacuum hose on the other side. So, those things you can spot pretty easy, especially if you know that you just sold them a fuel pump. But this goes for everything. I did a video yesterday on lawnmower blades. And why did I do a video on lawnmower blades? Everybody knows about lawnmower blades, right? No, they don't. I watched a few videos over the weekend of different ones telling about what a lawnmower blade is. And it was totally opposite of what they were saying is true. Anybody can get on YouTube and talk about this or that as being the resident expert, but you do need to know a little bit about what you're selling. And you should do a little bit of research on what you're talking about. if you're trying to say that you are knowledgeable in that. I mean, there was one video, the guy was showing the lift blades as mulching, and the mulching is lift blades. Yes, if you have a notched blade, that's mulching. Gator blades with notches, mulching. If you don't have any notch, that's a lift blade. If you sell a mulching blade to your customer for a bagger, you are not going to have a happy customer because it's not going to have enough get it up to shoot. And some of the bigger units have, a blower on it as well, so it's trying to help bring it up. But still, if you cut it that fine, it's going to be hard for it to be picked up. Whereas if you're doing one cut, whatever length it is, it's going up to shoot. When you're selling more blades to your customers, you need to ask questions. If they're not asking you questions, you need to ask them questions. Because ideally, you want to put them into the best blade for their yard. I got customers that have sandy loam, and I put them into a thick copperhead mower blade, a lift blade. And they go through 2 sets in the season because of how big their yard is and how sandy the soil is. I mean, the sand is just, it's like sandpaper, it just wears it down fast. And you have to keep track of your blades if you're on sandy loam, because if you start letting it get to the point of where pieces are falling off from it, it becomes unbalanced. You could be looking at spindle bearings, spindles, you name it. And you're not going to get a good cut in the yard either. I had a customer come in once, just a couple of years back, that he had bought a set of mower blades from a big box store. And he said that the mower blades weren't cutting after a while. So I asked him, I said, do you have the mower blades with you? And he said, yeah, they're in my truck. So he brought them in, and there was hardly anything left, and they were a press blade that he bought from, a big box store. And he was mowing sandy loam. So I explained to him that, you need to go with a heavier blade for your yard, for one. And you need to check your blades more often, because if these are this kind of shape, after a few seasons or after a few yard mowings, then the sand that you're mowing is pretty bad. And then the other thing is you have to have the ability to do a parts lookup. And it doesn't matter which machine, because this day and age, every machine can be found online. You don't have to be a dealer to access these parts lookup diagrams. You simply have to have the model number, and with the model number, just put, parts diagram or whatever, but usually if you put the model number, it'll come up. And like Sears, they've got their own site with all their models of breakdowns. You've got John Deere has their own site that you can do a parts lookup on any of the John Deere products. Even the ones that are sitting at your big box stores can be found, if they're a John Deere, through the John Deere website. All right. Now, for most of us, we're dealers, right? So we can go into our dealer portal. That's what I call it, a portal. And do parts lookups on just about anything. But if you're not a dealer, then you don't have access to their portal, right? Now, with me, I'm not a John Deere dealer. It's one of the ones I couldn't get because they have such a strict, and that's fine, a strict territory. strict floor planning, strict. But they want consistency, and they want their dealers spread out in distance so that you don't get two dealers too close together, right? And this is their selling territory. But as a farmer, I have a lot of John Deere equipment. As a homeowner, I own the John Deere Zero Turn. I like John Deere. It's been part of me for years. They're good equipment. But if somebody comes in and wants a John Deere part or looking to find that part, okay, first thing you have to remember is John Deere with their parts is proprietary. Pretty much, most of it. But a lot of your mower blades, parts for your spindles and this and that, can be bought through aftermarket companies and also other OEM companies that are producing those for that company. And by simply just creating a username and password on the John Deere website, you can do a part search, and you can put in your model number, and it'll break it down to everything that you need, all right? And then you simply just copy the blade number and go over to eBay, or if you're a dealer for rotary stems, you can try those two real quick. But you need to be able to, when a customer comes to you, you need to be able to do a parts lookup. And a lot of times, I'll be honest with you, I just use Google. I just throw the model number in it, hit search, instead of running it through my dealer portals. It's just as quick to get the right part for them. Years ago, when we were selling a lot of parts online, I always stocked a lot of parts. I mean, our place was packed. There was no other place to put a part. Because if somebody ordered one, I'd buy two. And that's how I grew my inventory. But now I'm thinning out my inventory. So what I would recommend to anybody getting into the business right now, or who are in the business right now, is don't carry a heavy parts inventory. Carry your common blades if you are selling to the public. In the certain areas, you'll see like a lot of them will run the zero turn, the Cup Cadets, the 54-inch cuts. So if you have 8 or 10 customers that are running that machine, having a set of blades, the 3-blade set in stock, is a good idea. And that's what I do. And I have customers that come in every spring and buy 2 sets of blades. So in the spring of the year when I'm trying to fill orders, I'll order 2 of their sets and set it aside because I know they'll be in to get them, right? But don't overstock, is what I'm telling you. Is right now, a lot of the OEM companies have jacked their prices up on their parts. And I know it's costing them more money to create them, right? But they're buying them from China. So you would think they could pass the savings on to us and just leave the part price alone. But they haven't. They've jacked it even higher. Your aftermarket companies kind of do the same thing. We're all saying inflation, right? Why I'm saying is don't get yourself tied up with a lot of inventory is Chinese didn't raise their prices. If anything, they lowered them. And if your customer can buy a carburetor for a chainsaw with gaskets, fuel filter, what have you, air filter, for under $10, and you can't even come close to the carburetor, is going to set you back $40 to $50. I know, quality, right? But it's hard to sit there and listen to a customer tell you that, they could have bought it for $10. If you want to stock one of those carburetors, fine, but don't get a box of them of 10. That's how I always bought all my carburetors from the OEM companies. Buy the 10-pack. Comes right in a box, made in China. So I'm gonna start wrapping this up. You don't need to be the expert or a mechanic. You just need to be the resident expert on what you're selling and have the ability to get your parts, the right parts for your customer when they need them. So that means having the ability to do a parts lookup and just simply having a model number and throwing it into Google will bring up parts diagrams for you to go find the right part. Knowing what you're selling. If you're going to sell mower blades, folks, you need to know the different types. There's two types, lift or mulching. And there's two applications, bagger, straight cut, mulching into the ground. Now, I know there's categories within those categories that you can fine tune it, but you would at least need to know those two categories. Is just your lift and your mulching. All right. See the new hat. I got my new hats yesterday. I ordered them. It's got Northern New York parts, and then it's got small engine repair. My old John Deere was getting dirty anyways. But on that note, guys, you need to be knowledgeable. You can't be just, a parts guy selling parts. You have to be selling the correct parts and have a reason why you're selling those parts to that customer. So I'll catch you on the next video. Have a great day.